The championship is back, and boy, was it just as good as ever. And we're back to round it up, so let's talk about round one of the championship. Starting off on Friday night, Birmingham 1, Ipswich 1, a great fixture to open up the championship campaign, and it didn't let down. Obviously, a sold-out St Andrews, Birmingham coming up with unbelievable momentum, unbelievable hype, going head-on with an Ipswich side who are tipped to be, well, for the majority of people, title favourites. It was the perfect blockbuster fixture to start, and it very nearly was the fairy tale for Birmingham City, who I thought were the better side for much of the first half, even in the second half, when of course they finally took the lead. I was massively disappointed with Ipswich, especially in the first half. They just never got going at all. They never really settled. They never quite got a grip of the game or the atmosphere early on especially. But then equally, I was kind of disappointed with Birmingham, how they sort of took their foot off after they scored. They allowed Ipswich to get back into the game, and yeah, you can say who deserved the win, whether it was an even game or not, but I think Birmingham did allow Ipswich to get themselves back in, even if I do think by the letter of the law it might have been a penalty, but I think it was still very, very harsh to give. A 95th minute penalty, of course, got Ipswich a point that you could say is a tad fortunate, but I think anyone who comes away from St Andrews this season will be very, very glad if they can snatch a point like that. So all is even, and what a great way to open the season. Charlton 1, Watford 0, another fantastic way to open this season on a Saturday, with Charlton returning to the championship, winning in the 94th minute. It simply does not get any better than this. It looked like an evenish game. I've not seen too much of it. It looked like it ebbed and flowed. Both sides had spells. Both sides had chances. But I guess on an opening day like this, newly promoted sides, they come up, big crowds, lots of excitement. There's always room for a moment like this, isn't there? And it was fantastic to see Charlton celebrating a late winner, a first win back in the second tier. Yep, it's at the expense of Watford, who'll be massively disappointed that they weren't able to get anything from this game. But what a fantastic moment it was for the Addicts, and let's see if they can build on it. Coventry 0, Hull 0. Not much to say on this one. I've not seen much of this game, but looking at it, it seems like Coventry did have the better of it in terms of chances, in terms of opportunities, and just general momentum. But they were just simply unable to create enough big chances to put this Hull City side away. And you've got to say, on paper, Coventry looked like they had a really, really generous start. They probably couldn't have asked for a better opening game than this. And I think they've got to be disappointed that they've been unable to come away with anything more than a point. I think Hull will be delighted, given all the stuff that's happened off the pitch there, going to the to CBS on the opening day, a very well fancied Coventry side. Coming away from there with a point is a fantastic result. So definitely for me, of the two, Hull should be by far the happier with this result. Southampton 2, Wrexham 1. Welcome to the championship, Wrexham. This was mental. Wrexham, I thought, started the game, and first half they were brilliant. They had their game plan spot on. They defended really, really well, and they caused Southampton a ton of problems when they did get into their half, when they did break forward, and of course they did get themselves ahead via a Josh Windass penalty. However, they simply could not withstand the Southampton barrage of pressure that came in the second half, and it, to be fair, was a matter of time before Southampton got themselves back in the game and ultimately got themselves ahead. I think their only gripe is that it took them so long until the 90th minute, but I think when you look at the possession, the stats, the XG, the amount of opportunities Southampton did create in the end, I think it was a case of, did they have the quality to get themselves the goals they needed? They certainly did with the free kick from Ryan Manning. It was an absolute corker to equalise in the 90th minute before Jack Stevens cruelly snatched all 3 points from Wrexham's grasp in the 96th minute. So the Hollywood ending that maybe you'd expect in a game like this, but it wasn't for Wrexham. It was for Southampton, and this is what happens at this level when you come up against sides. Their quality tends to shine through in the end. So without doubt, a scare for Southampton. They'll be relieved to get this one. Still plenty of positives to take from Wrexham, but it is a sign that the Championship is a different beast. Boro 1, Swansea 0. Of course, I've done a full-on review of this game on the channel, so check that out if you want to know more about my thoughts on this one. But to be honest, there's not much to say about this one. It was a low-quality game. Two sides who were sort of very mediocre. There wasn't much quality in the game at all, and it was decided by one set-piece goal, which has certainly become a staple of Boro in pre-season and now into the season as well. So for us, it was a massive win, given all the noise and I guess the lack of preparation going into this season for Boro, the lack of signings, Rob Edwards and all the question marks surrounding that. I think just getting off to a winning start was absolutely pivotal for us, and I think Swansea will be disappointed. They didn't create all that much in this game at all. A lot of it was down to Boro's very good defence, but I did think Swansea were a little bit disappointing as well in the forward area, so they'll be hoping to bounce back. And as for us, well, I'm just relieved we've gotten off to a winning start. Norwich 1, Millwall 2. Millwall have lived up to the hype, haven't they, in the opening day? I mean, a lot of people backing them, a lot of people very high on them. In fact, these were the two teams I was probably the most high on in terms of potential playoff contenders this season. So to see them going head-to-head early doors was really, really interesting. And for Millwall to come out on top, I think it just shows that they are possibly the real deal. Going to Carrow Road, picking up a win. Not many sides, I think, will do that this season. They also created some really big opportunities. And as I thought they would be, Millwall, in their own way, they're very, very effective. And this just hammered home that they are not going to be an underdog this season. They are going to be, I think, a genuine playoff contender. A brilliant big win on the opening day. Norwich will be disappointed. Of course, their goal just came from a goalkeeping error in the end. I'm sure they would have liked to have had more from this game, but Millwall definitely showed what they could possibly be this season. Oxford 0, Pompey 1. A huge win for Pompey. It seemed like an even game overall, this one. Looking at the stats, there wasn't too much between both sides. Oxford seemed to have more opportunities, more shots on goal, even though Pompey's chances were still of relative high quality. So a tight game that Oxford have just missed out on, which will be very disappointing for them. I think, home games like this are ones they would probably look to target this season to pick up as many points as possible. And Pompey, of course, last season suffered massively on the road, and their away record was what sort of kept dragging them into danger, you could say. So for them to get off to a winning start on the road, I think is absolutely massive for Pompey. As I say, if they compare that with decent home form, who knows where they could end up this season. So a great start for them. Oxford will be disappointed, but I don't think this defeat is the be-all and end-all. They just need to try and pick up as many points as they can in the next few games. QPR 1, Preston 1. By the look of this game, it was a tale of two halves. It seems like by the momentum, at least on FootMob, QPR had more of the first half and Preston had more of the second. Not much to split these teams in terms of chances and the chances that they created. So forgive me if I'm wrong, but this seemed like a very even game between two sides who were pretty evenly matched. So I've got nothing else to say, really. I think Preston, naturally, are probably going to be the happier of the two sides. QPR probably looked at Preston and thought it was a big opportunity to get a win on the opening day. But yeah, I think these will be two sides that will be middle of the league towards the bottom end. A draw is a draw. Not much else to say. Stoke 3, Derby 1. Now this looked like an impressive win by Stoke. It really, really did. They dominated possession. They created the bigger chances. And this reminded me of the Derby County last season a little bit. On the road, where they just weren't really a threat. They didn't create all that much at all. They only had 3 shots on goal in this game. 2 on target. One of them, of course, was the goal on the hour. And even though it took Stoke until the 70th minute to actually get themselves a level and end up winning it, of course, with 2 goals in stoppage time. From the momentum of the game and the possession and the chances, it did seem like Stoke were the side who were dominating the most in this game. So maybe Derby looked like they were heading on way to getting one of them sort of vintage away performances and results that we saw them start to pick up last season, where they wouldn't offer all that much, but they got themselves a goal and they were able to hold on to it, but not on this occasion. And a strong 3-1 win is definitely a positive start for Stoke, but as always with Stoke, we will reserve hype and reserve judgment until they consistently keep themselves away from the bottom half. West Brom 1, Blackburn 0. Again, another even game. I would say that West Brom edged. I think there were a few of these, Pompey, Oxford, Boro, Swansea, and now West Brom, Blackburn. Really tight opening day fixtures, and I think just being able to get out on the winning side is absolutely huge. West Brom did that with a goal in the 15th minute, but as I say, it didn't look like there was much to separate these sides. They'll be grateful that the red card to Furlong was so late on in the game. But for West Brom, it is about just getting off the mark at home. I relate to that as a Boro fan. It's a huge, huge way to, get off the mark at the start of the season. Blackburn will be disappointed, but as I say, it's the first day. They're away from home. Let's see how they bounce back. Sheffield United 1, Bristol City 4. I was walking back from the Riverside when I saw this, and I could not believe my eyes. Now, I will say this. I didn't see much of the game. I saw the highlights. I don't think the scoreline tells you the full story, but it is still a massively damaging start for Ruben Sellers at Sheffield United. It looks like Bristol City were just ridiculously clinical, and Sheffield United were the complete opposite. They had almost double the XG that Bristol City had. 20 shots, 6 on target to Bristol City's 9 with 5 on target. Sheffield United just could not put their chances away. Bristol City were clinical, as I say. Scott Twine, as he does, delivering brilliantly from a dead ball. An unbelievably perfect free kick from him. I think them also getting that third goal straight after the second half began was absolutely crucial. So I get that the scoreline is damaging for Sheffield United. I don't think things looked as bad here. Of course, the way they conceded the fourth goal didn't look all that great, but I do think it's one of them. It's one of them results where the opposition they're on fire. Everything goes in. It's a great start for Bristol City, and I think regardless of the opposition, I think this will just give them so much confidence going into the next few games. So the perfect start, and it might just put a bit of pressure on Sheffield United that even if this, on paper at least, looking at the stats, didn't look like the worst performance in the world, it certainly puts a bit of pressure on early doors. Finally, Leicester City 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1. I think Sheffield Wednesday deserve so much credit for the shift they put in this game, given the fact they didn't have a pre-season, given the fact they've lost a ton of players and there's so much uncertainty. They did themselves proud in this game, I would say. They took the lead in the first half. They looked pretty good at times. They did put Leicester under some pressure and caused them quite a few problems. But second half, I think whatever Cifuentes said, the changes he made, bringing on Harry Winks, etc., it did change the game. And Leicester were able to just pin Sheffield Wednesday back. And it was a case of just how long did it take for them to get themselves in front. Vestergaard got them level. Of course, Barry Bannon's red card didn't help. Was the second yellow harsh? I mean, I guess in a way it was, but the follow-through is not pretty viewing either, so I can see why the referee gave that. And unfortunately, that only added to the Leicester City pressure and put Sheffield Wednesday under even more of it, and they got themselves the winner in the end. 2 goals from set pieces, which I think is interesting for Leicester. They couldn't get themselves a goal from open play against Sheffield Wednesday, but no pre-season. Wednesday are going to tire. Their players were cramping up, going off. They are at a massive disadvantage at this stage of the season. So, although the result didn't go their way and it ended up being the result I think a lot of people expected, they've done themselves so proud, and the least they can do at the moment is just give their fans everything, try their best, and hopefully pick up as many results as they can, while hopefully off the pitch issues get themselves sorted. But Leicester, they'll be relieved to get this one out of the way. They'll be relieved to get over this banana skin. Definitely improvements to be made after that really poor first half, but I guess on the opening day, as I say, the most important thing is the result. So guys, there's my roundup of the opening weekend in the Championship. Of course, we're going to try and do as many of these as we can throughout the season. We'll see if we can keep it going between, of course, 3-game weeks where there'll be so much going on. We'll continue to try and do as many of these roundup videos as we can, as well, of course, as hopefully bringing back the predictions towards the end of the week. And we have got a free week bar in the EFL Cup, which we're not covering on the channel anyway. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be able to predict next weekend's round of Championship fixtures. And, well, if next weekend's even half as good as this one, we'll be in for a cracker once again. But until then, if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like on the video, subscribe for more, and leave a comment on the section below with your thoughts on your team. And until next time, take care, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.